Hello and welcome to episode 103 of the podcast, The Pocket Stylist. I'm Lisa Talbot, and today I am joined by one of my wonderful clients who's going to chat to us a little bit more about what she did with me, how we work together. So first of all, I'm going to say hello, Cheryl. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. I'm brilliant, thank you.
And you are sat for people that are listening, you are sat in the most wonderful sunny garden I can see behind you in Spain. And for those who are watching on YouTube, they can see it. But you are one of my wonderful clients because you said something to me once, and this is why we're gonna do this today. And you said you didn't realize you needed me until you needed me. So just kind of explain a little bit about that for the listeners.
Yeah, I know it sounds a bit mad, doesn't it? So a friend of mine actually was doing a photo shoot, and you helped her pull some outfits together for this branding photo shoot. And I thought, oh, that's very, very decadent, lucky you. That'd be a nice thing to do. And I thought, well, I don't need any, I've got shed loads of clothes. I certainly don't need somebody to take me personal shopping and buy me some more clothes because I've got too many as it is. But on that day, I was looking for something in my wardrobe because I had a work meeting, having spent 99% of my life at home doing Zoom calls and just thinking about what I had on my top half. All
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
sudden, I had to be seen in the office. And I pulled out about half a dozen different outfits and kind of hung them around the room and thought, well, yeah, I quite like that. And I quite like, oh gosh, I don't even know if that still fits me. And I'm looking through this wardrobe, and I really, before I knew it, 2 hours had gone by. And I thought, God, this is mad. I'm just going into the office. It's no big deal. And I actually found it quite overwhelming. And I thought, life's changed, things have moved on. Everything I've got here is really structured. We're not this formal in the office anymore. I don't want to chuck it all out. What am I going to do? So that was what made me think, actually, we could have a conversation. And I knew I didn't want to go shopping. I had this thing in my head about personal shoppers take you shopping. So I knew I didn't want more, but actually, we then talked, and I talked about the kind of overwhelm of everything I've got. And I had made a decision in my head that if I could lose a proportion and keep what was more practical for me for my world now, because some of the stuff in my wardrobe is so well looked after, and because my wardrobe's broad, you wear things less often, so it doesn't get worn and scruffy. So actually I keep everything. And I thought, crikey, I don't even know if it all fits me. So we then started our plan to make everyday life easier and help me have a different mindset, I think, to my wardrobe.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because, like you said, some people think that a personal stylist or a personal shopper only goes shopping, but there is
Yeah.
so much more to it. And I think, ladies they're very busy. Women are very busy, just generally, whether you're at home, whether you're working. And the wardrobe is almost the last thing that if anybody spends a dedicated amount of time looking at. So suddenly the wardrobe gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you lose sight really of what's in it. Did you find that you used to buy in certain ways? So did you buy
Definitely.
like similar garments, just in different colors?
Yeah, it was always a standing joke with my husband because he doesn't mind shopping. He used to come shopping with me, and I'd pick something up and I'd go, I love this. And he'd say, yeah, that's because you've got about 10 of them already. And I would do exactly that. I would try something on, and if I really loved it, I'd buy all the colors because I was indecisive. It's funny, I'm not indecisive as a person or at work, incredibly indecisive about clothes. So if I loved something, I love bright colors, and they had it in red, orange, and pink, I'd think, well, I like all of those. I'll have to have them all. So then I'd buy them all, which
Yeah.
is which is bonkers. And I think the other thing that I did a lot of, and I would then like the red one best, so I would only ever wear the red one, because you can't wear all three at the same time. So I think the other thing that I did a lot of was I would buy things for a purpose. I would buy a dress for a wedding, and then I'd only wear that dress for a wedding, or I'd buy a suit for an important client meeting or for an interview, and then I'd think of it as my interview suit, so it would only ever be worn for one purpose. And I must have done that. If you looked at my wardrobe, my old wardrobe, I must have done that 100 times over. And then I have this guilt feeling that I've spent so much money on these clothes that I can't chuck them out, so I have to keep them. And that's the mindset, even if you don't wear them.
Yeah. And I think that's really interesting, because obviously when I first came to your wardrobe, and, you know, I came and we looked round, and obviously we set you up on the online wardrobe as well. So I came and I took the photographs. What was really interesting for me, I remember, you know, I sat down with you to start with, and we had a nice coffee, and I talked to you about the style personalities, etc. And, you know, you do have a quirky side to you, whether it's the print or the color or the shoes, etc. And there was some of your wardrobe, because there was historical items in there that didn't actually reflect the person that you are. And I remember saying to you, what did you used to wear that for? And you'd say, oh, no, that was my work suit. And it was really interesting. You, in your mind, had categorized that suit for that purpose. And like you've just said, but some of it didn't really reflect who you were as a person. You almost, you know, took on an alter ego for work, which was, it has to be formal, but actually, which is why sometimes you didn't wear that suit, because you opted for something else that felt more like you.
Yeah.
It was really interesting, because you had the most, and you still have the most amazing wardrobe, but it just wasn't working for you in the lifestyle that you are now.
Yeah, and I think the other really interesting thing, Lisa, is when we had been through item by item, there was a real theme to the things that we took out.
Yes.
And they tended to be things that weren't fitted or structured. And really, for me, when I look at them now, some of them were actually quite shapeless, and I hadn't considered the shape. I'd gone to them like a magpie, because they had fancy sleeves, quirky sleeves, or a bit of back detail, or I loved the color, and I didn't even consider the shape. And you'd say to me, well, why don't you wear that? And I'd say, oh, because it's got a really high neck and it makes me look really full chested, or you know, whatever the reason was, I would say, oh no, I don't wear that. And then some things you'd pull out and I'd go, I love that, that's one of my favorites. But I would still not wear my favorites too frequently, and I think that's because of this compartmentalizing thing that I did. And I think one of my biggest takeaways now is that I'll call it braver. You probably don't, because you do this every day. But for me, I make braver choices with how I wear things. So I'd buy a suit. I would only wear a suit with a shirt with heels, etc. Now I'll wear a suit and I'll dress it down with a t-shirt and trainers. And if I feel it's too dressed down, I'll stick some jewelry on, or a scarf on, or, you know, a quirky handbag strap, or whatever, so that I feel like it's got a bit of me in it. And I just wouldn't have done any of that kind of deconstructing of what the outfit should look like in my mind.
Yeah.
I
Do you know what
wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, and do you know what, it sticks in my mind more when you messaged me that time and you said to me, I'm going for a job interview. Can you help me create some outfits? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I have all your wardrobe on the online wardrobe anyway. And I went in and I created the outfits, and they were very you. You know, they were very you. So I knew you'd feel confident in the job interview. And I remember you coming back to me and saying, oh, I would never have worn this as an outfit.
Yeah.
I'd have worn my formal grey suit. And I said, yes, but it doesn't reflect who you are from a confidence level too. And you said, I'm going to wear that one that you've done for me. I'm going to wear it. And then, bless you, you messaged me and said, I got the job. And I was like, oh my goodness, because for me, that is so powerful because, you know, I created the outfit that represented you. And this then leads us very nicely almost into the identity situation, doesn't it? Because identity, and as women, I think sometimes we lose a little bit of our identity depending on what life throws at us along the way. And I think your identity was very much as well about your shoes, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot changed in my life in a short period of time. So I always wore very structured business dress, and I always, because of that, it was often black suits, navy suits, skirt suits, dress suits, trouser suits, very often black, navy, grey, plains. And so I would always wear snazzy shoes. If I wore, a black dress and jacket, I'd wear red shoes, or, I had every colour heels under the sun, every colour, always high heels, always court shoes, very often patterned shoes, multicoloured, etc. And then in 2016, I had a big reaction to a vaccine, and I was really poorly. And within a month of that happening, I was still poorly. I had to have an emergency hysterectomy. So it launched me overnight into menopause. And so my body, battling the two things at the same time, had a bit of an autoimmune shutdown, and I developed fibromyalgia. So all of this stuff together meant that I had some time out of work, and that massively battered my confidence. But it also massively impacted what I was comfortable wearing, because even my skin hurt, my muscles, my joints, even my skin was sore. So all of a sudden, structured clothing, heels, because I didn't even do casual very well. So even in my downtime, if I wore a pair of jeans, I would always wear a pair of jeans with heeled boots or whatever. So I had to change the way that I dressed, which I really wasn't comfortable with. And I felt like I was sort of losing a bit of my identity. So I think for me, and confidence, if you do something or you have something that's kind of your feature, it boosts your confidence a bit. And I think that one of the things, one of the huge things for me with our interactions is I learned to retain my own identity by doing something different. You evolve. When you're 30, what you wear, what you look good in, and so on, can be very different than when you're in your late 50s. And much of my wardrobe was from when I was 30, 40, etc. So what I was looking for now, and of course we then had lockdown, and we then have the whole world of Teams meetings and being on a screen and wanting to be comfortable but still look tidy and so on. So I think, for me, that being able to retain my identity but evolve as I'm getting older and still be able to be comfortable, a bit quirky, doesn't always have to be with structure and high heels. I do it now with with color or with comfortable things that are still a bit different, perhaps. But yeah, that was massively important to me. And I've lost nothing by losing wearing heels every day.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because I think, change can be hard, no matter, we talk about, in a big corporate organization, we talk about embracing change. But for us to sometimes go, to know what we know we need to make that change, But I always say you don't have to do it all in one go. We do it in baby steps.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you and I worked together with your wardrobe over almost a 3-month period, didn't we? We didn't do all of it in one go. We did, you know, trousers and dresses in one go. Then we did tops and shirts in another. Then we did shoes all on their own, because your shoe collection is just stunning, I have to say. But it's really interesting how it's baby steps. So,
Yeah.
you know, then change doesn't become as difficult, because we're doing it kind of one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. If you try and do it in one massive go, then the overwhelm comes in, because it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. But actually, if you suddenly say to, you know, someone like yourself, you know what, just swap those shoes for this. Just try that top with that trouser. You don't have to do it everything in one go, just gradual. And then actually what happens is you build the confidence to go, oh, actually, like you just said, I'm going to wear that suit with that t-shirt, whereas normally I'd have worn it with a shirt. Because then, and also I think to take into account not only your change, but the world has changed since the pandemic. Everything in a business world is definitely more casual. Even if you're working in the city, you're not as formally structured as you used to be.
Yeah,
and that's where also a lot of ladies are thinking, right, how can I adapt the style that I used to have to now work with the office and the workplace, because it is slightly different. But it's so important that you don't lose your identity. But some ladies feel they do, but it's just about incorporating it back. I mean, I have to say, I'm just sitting here thinking, I think we probably took out a good 25%, if not more, of your wardrobe, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. And actually, with the confidence to make changes, I've refined it further now. So I've done more. And, you know, that's a bit of a win-win as well, because you always feel good with kind of, I suppose, having the courage to then carry on and do it yourself. Because one of the things with me was initially was I didn't want to be judged. You know, you think, my God, you've got all this stuff. And I felt really ungrateful, because I thought, I've got all this stuff and I'm not wearing it. Well, so my next step with the stuff that I'd removed then was for, you know, some of it went on Vinted, some of it went to charity shops. I've got a bunch of friends who are the same size as me.
I love this story. I love this one.
They think it's Christmas. They absolutely think it's Christmas. There's about 4 or 5 of them. And we quite literally have a couple of bottles of wine. Everybody gets in, digs into the bagfuls of stuff and chooses what they're going to have. And it's funny, because I've got one friend that really likes girly, frilly things, and I've got another friend who'll only wear things that are very straight and classic. So even when I'm sorting through now, I go, okay, so that will be fine for Jan, and that will be good for Kasia. And it's really funny, because you actually think like that now. And yeah, everybody gets down with a bottle of wine and sorts through, and they go home feeling like all their Christmases have come at once. And whatever they don't have or doesn't fit, then goes to the charity shop. So it's a win for everybody, and it's a great excuse for a social evening as well.
Yeah, but you're paying forward. So the whole process that you've gone through, and I was thinking about it, I think I started working with you in about November 2022. So we're probably like, you know, 7-8 months down the line, and we continue to work together. So as kind of the final part of our podcast today, if somebody else was in your shoes, which you were 7 months ago, 8 months ago, what would you recommend they did? Because obviously when we started talking about it, we said, you know, you didn't know you needed me until you knew you needed me, kind of thing. So I've probably kind of put you on the spot, but if someone was sitting there now thinking, gosh, that's me, what would you suggest?
So I think the thing that I found really helpful was just to have that initial chat. We just had, I think we had 15 minutes. We just had a quick touch point where I almost did I don't want this, and I don't want that, and I don't want this, rather than this is what my challenge is. So I would say, don't assume that something is there for a different purpose. You know, my interpretation was you would have a program of touch points that might not fit my need, and it absolutely hasn't been anything like that. So we had a catch up, and then I said, honestly, you gave me the option of doing stuff remotely, and I said, honestly, my wardrobes, in plural, are overwhelming. You'd have to come and see it for yourself. And so we did, didn't we? You came over and I kind of went, I don't know where to start. And the really important thing for me was I thought I didn't want to feel judged. And actually, it's not that way at all. And we've built up a great friendship, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so lovely. I've saved so much time. So I would say for people to make a 15-minute or 10-minute or whatever discovery call can save you so much time. And when I have a stressful situation, like a customer pitch on the other side of the world, when I can't even think about what the weather's going to be like there, let alone what to wear, I can just ping off a message and say, I'm going to Dubai in July, it's going to be 50 degrees, help. It takes away one of the real major problems. But that said, if I wasn't working and I didn't have to be going all over the place, I still would have had enormous benefit from this, because you evolve, you change, your needs change, the world changes, and we don't always adapt as readily with it on our own.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure talking to you today. So thank you, Cheryl, so much for your time. Thank you for your insight into the consultations that you went through. I hope everybody enjoyed the story, because it is an amazing story. And thank you to everybody for listening, and we will see you all next week. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.